protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. People that were very fine people on both sides. And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists.
What are your views on the Ku Klux Klan and white supremacists?
I totally disavow the Ku Klux Klan. I totally disavow David Duke.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
willing to do
that. David Duke announced his Senate candidacy.
Are you ready before you ask the question?
Newt Gingrich said,
rebuked. Is that okay? Rebuked.
Rebuked.
Done.
Done.
He's run for president twice before, unsuccessfully. He's never before been the front runner.
How do you feel about the recent endorsement from David Duke?
I didn't even know he endorsed me. David Duke endorsed me? Okay. All right. I disavow. Okay?
Disavowed David Duke, and I disavowed him the day before at a major news conference, which is surprising because he was at the major news conference. CNN was at the major news conference, and they heard me very easily disavow David Duke. That I also disavowed David Duke. When we looked at it and looked at the question, I disavowed David Duke. So I've disavowed David Duke all weekend long on Facebook, on Twitter, and obviously it's never enough.
David Duke.
David Duke is a bad person who I disavowed on numerous occasions.
Free from violence, hatred, and fear. We want our country to be a place where every child from every background can grow up free from fear, innocent of hatred. There must be no tolerance for anti-Semitism in America. We must never ignore the vile poison of anti-Semitism or those who spread its venomous creed.
In the good old days, law enforcement acted a lot quicker than this.
He put out this tweet saying, as I stated at the press conference on Friday regarding David Duke, I disavow.
I won't say fairly. I have a very...
When I put out that I reject KKK and David Duke, nobody picks it up. You know why they don't? Because they don't want to pick it up. Now, I have been asked this question so many times. I have rejected it so many times.
White supremacists are saying, vote. Do you want those votes?
No, I don't want them, and I don't want him to say it. I don't like any group of hate. Hate groups are not for me. But I've said this before. The press hates me to say it. They just don't want to pick it up. We are a country that stands united in condemning hate and evil in all of its very ugly forms. Neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. Racism is evil, and those who cause violence in its name are criminals and thugs, including the KKK, neo-Nazis, white supremacists, and other hate groups that are repugnant to everything we hold dear as Americans.
In Delaware.
In one voice, our nation must condemn racism, bigotry, and white supremacy.
Now look at all these.
We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
I mean, you got the first sort of mainstream African American who is articulate and bright and clean and a nice looking guy. I mean, that's a storybook, man.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump.
Okay, so a strong view relating to the matter to which you spoke last, and that is the hiring of undocumented workers. What did take place was a violation of the United States immigration law. The committee and the public, as we've discussed, has to be assured that you are, without exception, going to be willing to enforce the law. In the immigration law, when did you first hire the unauthorized workers?
And because of a corrupt system that exists in Mexico, I voted for a fence. I voted, unlike most Democrats, and some of you won't like it, I voted for 700-mile fence. And you will not like this. And punish American employers who knowingly violate the law when, in fact, they hire illegals. But they're the facts. People are driving across that border with tons, hear me, tons of everything from byproducts from methamphetamine to cocaine to heroin. And it's all coming up through corrupt Mexico.
Fresh scrutiny comes from his earliest years in the Senate, when he strongly opposed mandatory school busing. It was designed to achieve integration and a more equitable education. What's less known is how he followed the lead of some of the Senate's most fervent segregationists. In a series of never-before-published letters reviewed by CNN, the strength of Biden's opposition to busing comes into sharper focus. On March 25, 1977, Biden wrote, "My bill strikes at the heart of the injustice of court-ordered busing. It prohibits the federal courts from disrupting our educational system." Biden sought and received support from Mississippi Senator James Eastland, a leading symbol of Southern resistance to desegregation. He frequently spoke of blacks as, quote, an inferior race.
And it's personal, and I was actually it was hurtful to hear you talk about the reputations of two United States senators who built their reputations and career on the segregation of race in this country. And it was not only that, but you also worked with them to oppose busing. And, you know, there was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate her public schools. And she was bused to school every day. And that little girl was me. Do you agree today that you were wrong to oppose busing in America then?
No. To coddle the reputations of segregationists, of people who, if they had their way, I would literally not be standing here as a member of the United States Senate, is, I think, it's misinformed and it's wrong.
Did you apologize for that?
He's going to have to make that decision. But, you know, let's be very clear that the senators that he is speaking of with such adoration are individuals who made and built their reputation on segregation. The Ku Klux Klan celebrated the election of one of them. So this is a very serious...
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying you, before you got in this program, if you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
What do you... and evil.
So the question facing Biden is how he reconciles nearly a half century in public life with today's Democratic Party. Of course, Jake, one of his biggest pieces of experience is that experience and long record. That also is one of his biggest challenges.
Even call centers, which rushed overseas in the hundreds of thousands. How many times you get the call? I'd like to talk to you about your...
The largest growth in population is Indian Americans moving from India. You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent. I'm not joking. Oh, gigantic.
The blinders have been taken off. They've all of a sudden seen a hell of a lot clearer. They've seen, geez, the reason I was able to stay sequestered in my home is because some black woman was able to stack the grocery shelf. What you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African-American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
Joseph.
Chain Wall Street. They're going to put you all back in chains.
Come here, Joe. No, you did not just say what I thought you said, Joe. Oh, I know. You did not just take it there. Who in the hell do you think you are? Joe, Who in the world do you think you are? Have you lost your everlasting mind? You racist piece of... See, Joe, you about to make me come out of my character right now. You are about to make me show a side that I have never showed anybody. I'm sick of you disrespecting the black community. You are racist.